a dark night, just in time for Halloween, on October 16th, 1590, an enraged husband stormed into his wife's bedroom. The two of them were nobles in an arranged marriage. She was his cousin, and apparently she had begun an affair not long after the marriage had just begun. The husband had begun to discover that something was amiss, and so on that fateful day, he set up a fake hunting trip he'd planned with his servants, aiming to catch this cheating couple in the act. He succeeded in catching the two of them after returning from this so-called hunting trip, but it tore him apart to see her with another man, just her nightgown between them, and in agony, he unsheathed his sword right then and there and stabbed the two of them to death. The servants later added that after initially coming out of the room covered in blood, after stabbing the two of them 50 times, he still worried that they weren't actually dead, and so he went back in for a second round of slicing and dicing. Still, he didn't stop there. He dragged both of them outside and hung them outside the palace, wounds and all, with the other man dressed just in his wife's nightgown, for everyone to see. The man who committed these atrocious deeds was called Karl Gesualdo, who was a nobleman next in line for the throne as the Prince of Enosa, which is now located in southern Italy. Ever since he was young, he was a loner, and he grew up as so, and the only thing that he ever showed interest was music. His personality was reflected in the music he composed. It was extremely eccentric, the most dissonant and modern-sounding music in the Renaissance era. It was widely chromatic, as you may have heard in the piece earlier, and he was also most famous for his madrigals. Some progressions that he wrote did not appear again in Western music until the 19th century. As he grew up, and as the next successor to the throne, his duty mainly became to produce offspring to be his successors. So he was married off to an even more well-off lady, the one and only Donna Maria Devello, which was his cousin. As you've seen from the story earlier, it was ill-fated from the beginning. She was experienced in love, and, well, Gesualdo definitely was not. The murders that he committed only served to prove their incompatibility. After the rage wore off, fearing his wife's powerful family, he ran off. However, he did still manage to escape any legal repercussions due to his status. Instead, a year after his murders, he officially became the third Prince of Enosa after his father died. However, though he escaped the legal consequences, he never escaped the emotional guilt that was buried in his heart. Through compositions after the incident, some of his guilt is evident. In his madrigal lyrics, vivid emotional words show up very often, such as love, pain, death, and agony, demonstrating his guilt. There's also proof that he feared for his soul, as he hung up a portrait in his personal chapel, which depicted him praying to the Virgin to intervene and beg for mercy on his soul. He never really escaped from the emotional scars and the guilt that he felt. And towards the end of his life, he suffered from severe depression. It got to the point where he assigned himself a servant to beat him daily. He relentlessly strove to find remains of his late uncle as well, which is his late wife's father, which he hoped to obtain healing from for his mental disorder and forgiveness for his crimes. Ultimately, he died in isolation, mere weeks after the death of his only son, produced from his second marriage. However, his music lives on. This incident helped propel him to some sort of musical fame due to his now infamous status. It is very likely that none of his works would have been as well known as they are now without the murders. However, despite that, and despite the criminal history of its composer, a lot of his works serve as very important and notable musical resources for composers even now, due to their special dissonance and being very ahead of his time. So the next time you might want to find some interesting music with some interesting background, as an avid music lover, Gesualdo's hauntingly beautiful melodies might be the ones for you. Thank you.